Groundhog Day. And we noticed that which is a philosophical Nietzschean eternal return film. There's actually references to that in the screenplay, by the way. It's an existentialist Nietzschean film. The Bill Murray character in Groundhog Day comes to the end of himself in much the same way as the neurotic Charlie Kaufman, narcissistic, nihilistic, atheist man comes to the end of himself. And that's the point at which, when we're at our lowest point, when we come to the end of ourselves, then we're ready for the transcendent. Then we're ready for God. Then we're ready for the divine. But there has to be the process of the character's humbling. Right? That's the part of the hero's quest. We saw this with the Northman. Right? Your boy Stellan Skarsgård. He had to come to the end of himself. He had to be humbled. Because the protagonist never listens to the wise sage characters on his quest. He has to be humbled, and then he can achieve apotheosis. So throughout the film, there are many. The orchid represents, it symbolizes a lot of different things. It symbolizes sexual fulfillment in a mate. It symbolizes gratification. It symbolizes the Holy Grail. It symbolizes the unattainable quest. It symbolizes perfection. And we find out that really you're not going to get that, right? It's pointless to go after that. And that's when he comes to the end of himself. He has his, what we could call a kind of a conversion experience. And did you notice that the way he chooses to end the movie is to, if we wanted to think about it in conspiratorial terms, he kills off his alter. He kills off the fun, cool brother, because the fun, cool brother was just a persona, an alter, a creation of his mind, or a multiple personality alter that he needed to get through some of these problems. Right. So this comes up in the psychology and the psychiatry of people who have MPD, DID. They have to integrate these, right? And when the integration occurs, they often speak of it like the alter undergoing a death. I don't know how that works. I can't explain all that to you. I've watched countless documentaries and read countless books on that, and it's that seems to be real, but I can't explain that to you. I don't know how the mind works. The mind is a mystery, right? So don't ask me to explain the mechanics of it. I don't know, but it seems to be the case. I think the evolutionary theme, we could definitely critique, the Big Bang, stupid evolutionary stuff. But I think in the film, evolution is just a device for the characters evolving. And really all of the characters are just aspects of the Charlie Kaufman character, right? So he needs to evolve. And he needs to figure out how to get out of this narcissistic, solipsistic, Ouroboros trap of eternal return and find something worth living for, something that is hope, something that isn't pure disappointment. And the Meryl Streep character is in a similar situation, right? She's looking for the same thing too. She wants to leave her marriage. She wants to have an affair with Florida Man, and she ends up in this situation where she does drugs with Florida Man and has a terrible experience, and he is exploiting her and taking pictures of these chicks, right, and putting them up on his GeoCities dirty internet page. And so it ends up being this big disaster, all under the cover of looking for this elusive blue orchid, which doesn't exist. Actually, it's all symbolic of the unattainable. And then she comes to the end of herself, and she wants her normal life back. She just wants to go back to what was her normal life. I did notice one thing that was interesting that always pops up in. Have you noticed how often they use the trope of the sophisticated city person and the low IQ country rube, right? And I like the fact that in this one, she wasn't actually the sophisticated city woman. Like, she was just as bad as Florida Man, right? Her character is not very redeemable, and she ends up there in the swamps, crying over the fact that this just total scumbag dude gets eaten by an alligator, right? Sophisticated city folk treat rubes like science experiments, right? They're always this snobby sort of like better than you, and then they want to do a science experiment expose for their journalism on country people and how backwards and unsophisticated they are. But the irony, of course, is that cities are giant science experiments. The sophisticated cosmopolitan city coomer is just as much a idiot as the backroads country rube. And I can say that from experience. I grew up a backroads country rube. I lived many years in the city. People in the cities are not more sophisticated. They might know a little bit more about authors and philosophers, but what does that really gain them? If you can't skin a buck and run a trout line. We can skin a buck, run a trout line, and a country boy can survive. Country folks can survive. We say grace, and we say, man, if you ain't into that, we don't give a damn. Singing song of the South, sweet potato pie, and I shut my mouth. Gone the wind, ain't nobody looking back again. I want to talk about me, I want to talk about myself, I want to talk about I like how it went from Hank to Alabama to Toby. It went from bad to worse. Actually, Hank's not that bad. But I will give the city folk 1 point for not really liking country music post 1980. Post 1980s, okay? Like after outlaw country, there's no good country songs. I'm sorry. I don't like any of them. And at least city folk could figure out that country songs are pretty much sucky, dude. I used to have to ride the bus for like 45 minutes. If you live in Tennessee, you grew up as a kid in Tennessee, like you had a bus ride to school that was at least going to be 45 minutes. I don't care where you lived. You could live right next door to the freaking elementary school. You still had to ride the bus for 45 minutes. I don't even know why. It didn't even make sense, but you did. You had to. You could have just walked across the street to the school. No, you still got to ride the bus for 45 minutes. And that old bus driver woman, all she would play was whatever. Froggy. I mean, it wasn't Froggy. This was pre-Froggy, but oh my gosh, dude. Imagine every day. I don't even like country. I might have liked it if I hadn't been force-fed country for what's 45 minutes was 45 minutes. Like an hour and a half. I don't like math anymore. 45 minutes plus 45 minutes. That was like 6 hours, dude. Math, time is a social construct. I identify 45 minutes plus 45 minutes as 6 hours. And if it's a bunch of damn Toby Keith songs, it feels like 8 hours. I want to talk about me. I want to talk about I want to talk about me. My number one, that's I. Oh my gosh. Is there anybody worse than Toby Keith? I can't think of anybody worse than Toby Keith. Red, white, and blue, we'll stick our boot in your ass. We're the red, white, and blue, we'll put a boot in your face. I mean, what's the one about getting vengeance on the chicks that wouldn't date him when he was in high school? And he's like, what? How's that one go? Y'all know what I'm talking about. The one where he's like, where he's famous now so he can brag about it. I'm ranting about how do we get on to country music? I don't even know, but I did appreciate Adaptation more than I did the last time I watched it. I think the last time I watched it, I was just kind of like, drugs, mind control, meta. What is this? What's going on? Right. Now it seems to make more sense. And I think I have solved it. There was a lot of things I didn't notice I've seen this movie 3 or 4 times. And the first couple times, I didn't notice him reading Hegel stuck in his head. I didn't pay attention to the Ouroboros reference. I'd forgotten the references to being John Malkovich and the disassociation there. I wonder if Charlie Kaufman if he suffers from any of these things, or if he's just using them as literary devices. I don't know. But what the great part of this movie, to get back to that, is just that he ends up learning from the goofy brother Alter, and he learns from the screenplay formulaic lecturer guy that he needs to end the story, and he needs to develop the characters. And he himself is the character who develops and learns his lesson, that he needs to get over himself, and that there is hope. There are things worth living for in life. And the film ends with him leaving the studio after he had written all this, and he's like, well, that was a good thing, and there is hope. So it ends up being a positive message. And it ends up including the elements that his idiot brother said needed to be in the film. The organized crime, the murder, the sex and the drugs, right? All of these elements needed to be in the story to tell a story. Yeah, I don't know when Eddie Bravo will post the interview, but we're recording it Sunday night, and then it will be on his new Rockfin show. If you guys don't know, Eddie Bravo has a podcast now that he's doing on Rockfin. So shout out to him coming over to Rockfin. If you would like to get over on Rockfin, I highly recommend it, because in this claustrophobic climate of clamping down on the words that we can and can't say, you might want to head on over to Rockfin to be over there